And I wholeheartedly believe in science.
And so as long as there are seasons, one would expect that growth rings would be a consistent way of dating something, right?
That is one way that we could look in the past and try to date things, yes.
Okay, and would you say that that is flawed?
Yes.
The consensus amongst the scientific community is that the sun existed before plants did, and you reject that, right?
Yes, I reject that.
I'm offering to present you with evidence, and you're that evidence doesn't count because science was wrong in the past.
Yes.
Good example of science denial is when you say, oh, science has been wrong in the past, so we shouldn't trust it now. That's like a great example of science denial. Johnny, how's it going?
Great, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is, Johnny?
So I have no clue, and I don't think anybody does. I had this conversation with a gentleman a few days ago, a young guy, I can't remember his name, but my question to you guys that just have wholeheartedly fallen into science, right? You think science is truth. You think science is an
effective way of figuring out what's true about the world? Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Would you agree that the scientific consensus in the past has gotten things wrong?
Sure.
What makes you think that the age of the Earth is the correct is fact?
So generally, I mean, we can kind of think of it like two different periods of time, right? So prior to about the 1900s, there was science, and the science that they were doing was basically like, what happens if I mix these two test tubes, and then I'm going to write it down in fancy language and send it off to my friends. That was like how science worked. Come the early to mid 1900s, science very much became a kind of a lot more rigid, right? There became standard ways of doing statistical analysis. There became standard ways of analyzing data. There became standard ways of, running your experimental tests. All of these things kind of became standardized. Replication became standardized, etc. So this is to say, we've gotten better at doing science in the last 100 years or so.
Absolutely, I agree.
And it's not just that we're more correct about what the science is. It's that we've gotten better at making sure that we're not going to be incorrect in the future. So I would say that, yeah, I mean, if you look at the science of like the 1800s or the 1700s or whatever, or even the early 1900s, like there's a lot of stuff that they're going to get wrong just because they weren't really doing it in like a really robust way. But we do now.
Do you think 1,000 years from now, people are going to look back in 2025 and say, you know what were they doing back then? What were the scientists thinking in 2025?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
So you think
at least to an extent.
Point where science is fact.
Science is a method, right? It doesn't make sense to say that science is fact. What is true is I think that we've gotten to the point where there are things that we don't understand, and we know that we don't understand them. We don't have an explanation for XYZ thing. There are also, of course, probably things that we don't know that we don't understand, but there are also things that we do know that we do understand, and those things we can be pretty confident in, right? We can look at many different branches of data or branches of science that all produce data that point to the same conclusion. And when that happens, you should definitely believe it. That's like the most likely answer to be true. If we take your worldview, then we can't. Then there's no reason to believe anything.
Well, to be fair, the scientific consensus in the year 350 BC was that the world was flat, right? That was the scientific consensus.
There wasn't science in 350 BC.
There was absolutely science back then.
There was not.
So tell me the date that science was started.
I mean, definitely not in 350 BC. Some would argue that like the beginnings, like proto-science, started with say that. Please, Johnny, you asked me a question.
1,000 years before Christ.
So some people would say that like proto-science started to emerge with the Islamic Golden Age in like the 900s, like medieval Islam. But Western European science, which is what you and I usually think of as science, like people in lab coats with beakers and stuff, that really started in like the 1600s or so in Europe.
That's not true, man. I would.
Well, what do you think science is then?
Well, science is a method, right? You already explained that, and I'm glad you explained that.
So can you give me an example of like people doing science, like in the same like the method that we did 2,000 years ago?
I am not the expert on science, right? I majored in finance. I took a few science classes. I know very little. I'm not a scientific expert, but what I did learn in those science classes that I took is that science is always open for interpretation. It's always open for new ideas. It's always open for changing, right? Before Darwin's theory of evolution, there was no theory of evolution. Now we've adopted Darwin's theory.
There were theories of evolution before. Those theories were different, and
Okay,
they didn't
sure.
stand up to the scientific scrutiny, so we didn't accept them.
Sure. And we've applied that same standard to today's science, right? Which you're going to tell me the Earth is 5 billion years old. You don't know that for
Four
a
and a half
fact.
billion years old.
Huh?
I don't know what you mean by for a fact. Like, do you know for a fact that the sun will rise tomorrow? Like, I mean, I would say that, like, yeah, I'm like pretty certain that the sun will rise tomorrow, but like I can't guarantee that, right?
Okay, well then we can get into the reality discussion and what's real and what's not, and I think that's disingenuous to move the goalpost there.
No,
I
I'm
think
not moving the goalpost. The point is it seems like you're demanding 100% certainty, right?
Well, that's what you're saying when you say that the
I'm
Earth
not
is
saying that. No, I'm saying that I have a high degree of certainty. I don't think that we can be 100% certain about really anything, and I think that that's okay. I'm not 100% certain that the sun will rise tomorrow. I'm also not 100% certain that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, but I'm very, very confident in both of those facts.
Okay.
So much so that I would call them facts.
And your confidence, as a scientist or a person that follows science, your confidence is open to interpretation, right? So
I
tomorrow
don't know
we
what
can
it means for confidence to be open to interpretation.
Okay, well,
Confidence is like a state of being that someone has with respect to propositions or claims.
Tomorrow there could be a new scientific exploration somewhere, and we have discovered that the Earth is only 1 billion years old, right?
Yeah, and tomorrow somebody could find Jesus's body and show that Jesus never resurrected. Like, yeah, like we could speculate. We could speculate about all sorts of things. The question is what's likely to happen and what's likely to be true.
Then that's a valid question, right? So the difference here is my views are, as a Christian, my views are based in faith, right? My views,
yeah, of course they are, absolutely.
Yeah, my views are based in faith. Yours are not. Yours are based off of years and years of scientific consensus that human beings have come together and said, "Hey, this is
based on evidence."
Okay, it's based on evidence.
Years and years of accumulated evidence, right?
The evidence in the year 600 BC was that the Earth was flat, and we know now that it's not. So science is ever changing.
To be clear, it wasn't science in 600 BC.
Whatever.
They weren't doing science. They looked out at the ground, or like, looks flat to me, and then they just said it was flat. There's no science there. There's no analysis there. There's no rigorous testing of hypotheses there.
Let me see if I can think of a better example. Would you agree that nuclear science is more advanced now than it was, say, in the 80s?
Nuclear, like with regards to like fission and like nuclear reactors? Sure. Yeah.
Nuclear reactors and things like that. So Chernobyl was a drop in the was a mistake that we made, the scientific community made, right?
It wasn't a mistake regarding the scientific claims, no.
No?
This is a bureaucratic issue.
Okay, do you think that nuclear reactors in 2025, if they just built a brand new nuclear reactor in Washington, D.C., it's going to supply the D.C. metro area with power, would you agree that that is a safer nuclear reactor than a one that was built in 1970?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
We have better regulation. We have better regulations. We have better engineering. All sorts of things.
Whatever the case may be. We also understand the science better, right?
The science of nuclear reactors hasn't really changed much. Now there are new nuclear reactor types that are being developed. As far as I know, they're not in production yet. These are things like thorium, or what are they called? Molten salt nuclear reactors. These are still like, we're working out engineering kinks. There's things like thorium reactors. These are still, I think that there's prototypes in China, but yeah, like the actual like details of like what happens in a nuclear reactor, like that's all been pretty well understood since the 50s or so. What you're talking about are engineering problems. Okay.
Engineering problems? Well, I mean, engineers would probably classify themselves as scientists.
They shouldn't, because they're not.
Well, ask Bill Nye, and I'm sure he's going to disagree. But what my point is that science isn't perfect from the start, right? It's always changing.
Nobody ever said it was.
The nuclear. Okay. So since you agree to that point, what makes you believe that the Earth isn't 6,000 years old? How do you know?
Because we have an overwhelming amount of data that contradicts that claim.
Okay, and what if tomorrow the data changes, just like it did for the nuclear reactors between 1980 and now?
This is a category error that you're making. Data didn't change between the 1980s and now.
What changed?
We just got better at building things.
Okay, what if we get better at determining the age of the Earth tomorrow?
Then we'll have better precision.
Right.
And that doesn't change what the value is. It changes the error rate, right? Okay. When you make measurements, you'll say, if you measure the age of a tree, say, it'll be like, it's like 30 years old plus or minus 2 years. But if you are better at measuring the age of the tree, it'll be 30 years old plus or minus 2 months, right?
Okay. Well, the claim that you're making in the prompt is that Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
Right.
When the reality of it is you have no clue. You don't know if it's 6,000 years old. You don't know if it's 5
It
billion
depends
years
on
old.
what you mean
You
by
don't know if
no,
it's
but yeah, I would say
4.9
that I know
billion
that's 4.5 billion years old.
You don't know that it's 4.8 billion years old. You don't know this 4.7
I would say it's
billion years old.
4.5 or
This is the
4.54 or
issues I see
so.
with science, and I wholeheartedly believe in science. I try to do my
You
best.
believe
as a
in? It sounds
Christian.
like you're doing science denial, though. Like you
No,
say
I'm
that
not
you
doing
believe in
science
science, but
denial.
you're right now doing science denial.
I think a true scientist would agree with me that science is always up for interpretation.
No,
In the year
that's
1500,
science has
we didn't
nothing
know
to do with
dinosaurs
interpretation.
existed. Or in the year,
Science has nothing to do with interpretation, right?
Absolutely.
Science has to do with data analysis. Science has to do
how
with
we interpret
experimentation
it.
and observation.
And how we interpret
No.
it.
The whole business of science is to remove personal bias, to remove interpretational lenses from the actual data, and stay firmly tied to empirics. That's the whole business of what science is about. It's about getting rid of interpretation, because that's how you end up with, the Earth is flat because it definitely looks flat to me.
Okay, but we already established that science has improved vastly over time,
Yeah,
right?
and so the whole business of science is getting rid of any interpretational bias. That's the whole business.
If you show me a set of numbers, a data set, right? How can I interpret that without any sort of?
The point is you don't interpret it. You use rigorous statistical analyses to either confirm or reject a hypothesis.
Okay, and like I said, the data sets you can't. So all I do is look at the numbers and say, "Yep, this is it." I don't have any no human influence there.
If you're doing science properly, what you've done before you've collected any numbers is you have made a hypothesis. You have established what that hypothesis will predict your data outcome would be after you run your experiment, after you make your observations, and then you will compare using statistical methods. These are things like linear regressions, chi-squared, any sort of statistical method you want. You can go find them in a statistics textbook, and then you compare your data with the predictions using those statistical methods. You don't rely on interpretation. You don't rely on, oh well, it kind of looks right to me. No, you do statistics, and then you either reject the hypothesis and you verify or confirm the hypothesis. That's just how it works.
So you agree that we don't know what the age of the Earth is?
No, I don't agree with that at all.
And tomorrow there could be new evidence that the Earth is 2,000 years old.
No, I don't think that that's the case.
You don't think that that's the case? Why not? What evidence do you have to support that the Earth is 6,000 years old?
I don't have any evidence to support the idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Okay, what evidence do you have to support that it's 5 billion years old?
Well, the evidence is that it's 4.5 or 4.54, plus or minus 50 million years or so. I can give you the evidence if you want.
Plus or minus 50? That's a big. It's
about 1%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
1% error is a lot.
I mean, if we're gonna say the Earth was started this many years ago, sure. I mean, we could say it's 150 trillion years old, right? We could say it's 150 trillion years old, plus or minus a percent.
Well, you could say that, but you wouldn't have any evidence to back it up, right?
Right. You don't have the evidence.
The point is as we get better at doing science, as we collect better and better data, our error range will narrow. It used to be that our error range was in the billions of years. Like we didn't know how old the Earth was, plus or minus a few billion years. We've narrowed it down quite a lot. This is still, it's still a scientific process. We still have better data to collect, and that will narrow our error bars subsequently.
Right? It's an ongoing process. So tomorrow
those error bars are going to continue to shrink and shrink and shrink as we get better and better data.
And then one day we'll just have a date, right? We'll have a date. The Earth started on September 3rd.
I suspect probably not. I mean, the difference between 4.5 billion years old and a single day is like 1 part in a trillion, and that level of accuracy is very, very rare in science.
I agree. I totally agree.
If somebody invented a time machine, maybe, but I just don't think that's necessary, nor do I think it's plausible.
I think it's just a little disingenuous to claim that the Earth isn't a certain age, right?
We can rule it out. Like, for example, we have crystals that are older than
probably 35 years old, probably around the same age as me. Okay, so
we have crystals that are older than 6,000 years old.
You and I can rule out that the Earth is older than 35, right? Since we are that age.
Can we?
Right.
I mean, generally, I would agree. Yeah, the Earth is definitely at least 32 years old because I'm 32. But look, we can just go look at other older things, right? The way that we get this is actually a great method, right? You and I can rule out that the Earth is 32 years old.
Right.
or that the Earth is younger than 32 years old. Fine. But we could also go talk to our grandparents if they're still alive.
Absolutely.
And then we could rule out that the Earth is younger than 80 years old or 90 years old, whatever it might be. But there aren't many people who are older than that. But what we can do is we can go look at documents, right? We can go look at documents that have the date written on them. So if you go look at like, I don't know, the Magna Carta or something, the Magna Carta, I think, has a date written on it.
And or the Gutenberg Bible, or whatever.
Any of these things that have the dates, and then we can look at those. And then there are documents that not all documents have dates written on them, especially older ones. But we can figure out how old they are based off of the things that they mention, right? Like if you see a document that talks about Jesus, for example, then that document probably happened after Jesus was alive and then crucified, right? So, and if you see a document that talks about the Babylonian exile of the Jews or something, then you can probably infer that document was written in, around that time. And so you can say, oh, well, that must have been 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. That we can rule out that it's younger than that. And then, not everything was written down, but we can instead go study when things were made by looking at what they were made from, right? We can look at how much erosion has happened. We can just keep going back using evidence, right?
99 years, right?
Sorry?
Let's say we go back to 5,999 years, right?
To be clear, I wasn't done. The is that you're okay using evidence establishing how old something is, except when it comes to using the scientific method to do the same. Anyway, go ahead.
Because it's flawed.
The scientific method is flawed.
Well, no, I didn't say that. I said that the method that you and I are currently engaging in is flawed.
Okay, where's the flaw?
Well, like you just said, we can't go back. Documents are old, right? We can only go back to where humans were, right? We can only go back to the earliest writings.
Why do we need to rely on writings? We can figure out how old things are without relying on things that were written down.
How can we do that?
There are known, you might call them chronometers that appear naturally, right? Like, for example, trees have growth rings, right? So if we can count growth rings, that doesn't involve human writing at all, and we can figure out how old that tree is.
So there was a scientific consensus at one point that each ring on this tree is 1 year of growth, right?
No, this is something that we can experimentally test, right? We can just grow a tree. We have a prediction that each year the tree will gain one additional ring, and then we can just grow a bunch of trees, and then we know when we planted them, and then just cut them down and measure how many growth rings there are, and then confirm the experiment or confirm the hypothesis, right?
And by your logic, all trees are the same from the existence of Earth, right?
This is the business of how we do science, right? We have a hypothesis, and then we test the hypothesis. Now, of course, not all trees are the same. But what we can do is we can think about why might it be the case that trees generally all have this growth ring pattern, and if the conditions to produce those growth rings are consistent, then we would expect the growth ring hypothesis to hold true. Now, the reason why the growth rings happen, my understanding, I'm not a botanist. The reason why they happen is that there's seasonal changes. So during spring, they grow faster, and during fall and winter, they grow slower. And so you get a difference in density during the growth periods. During the high growth period, it's less dense than in the slow growth period, it's more dense or something like that. And so as long as there are seasons, one would expect that growth rings would be a consistent way of dating something, right?
That is one way that we could look in the past and try to date things, yes.
Okay, and would you say that is flawed?
Yes, because before humanity, we don't know how. Because before humanity, we don't know how trees grew.
Well, look, the understanding. Do you think that the understanding of how tree rings grow now is incorrect? Do you think that it doesn't have anything to do with yearly seasonal changes?
No, I think what we see now, here in this present reality, I think what we see now, that's a good observation that, okay, this tree, for every year on our calendar, it gets a new ring. Sure, we can make that.
Do you think that is not? Do you think that was not true in the past?
We don't know. That's my argument. We don't. You and I do not know because we weren't there. We didn't experience it. No humans were there in the year one.
To be clear, were you there? Were you there? I don't know, during the Revolutionary War?
No, but it's
you
well
didn't
documented.
experience it. Okay, but how do you know? How do you know that actually happened? You weren't there.
Because there was human experience there.
How do you know? You weren't there.
Because there was human experience, and
how do you know there was human experience there?
From generation to generation to
generation.
How do you
know there was human experience there?
It's well documented in human history.
Oh, okay. So because somebody wrote it down, that's enough for you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But when somebody writes down,
Can I ask you what your
go
research
ahead.
is in? I'm just curious. I'm sorry.
I'm a physicist.
Okay.
But look. So you trust that somebody wrote something down, but you don't trust that there were seasons 10,000 years ago?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't alive 10,000 years ago. Do you think that there was ever a period on this earth where there weren't seasons?
Maybe about 4.5 billion years ago.
Okay, yeah. So there was a period. You agree? There was a period where there was no. So if there was no seasons, how do you know the trees grew the same way?
Trees didn't exist 4.5 billion years ago.
Okay, so let's say whenever the first tree was. I don't know. You're the scientist. You can educate.
Like a few hundred million years ago was the first tree.
A few 100 million years ago.
Yeah, there were seasons.
Okay, the first tree comes about on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trees. Woody trees. Okay, the first woody tree is on the Earth's surface. How can you tell me that tree, for what did we say, 100 million, 150 million years ago? How can you
a
show
few hundred million years ago, something like that?
Okay.
Yeah.
How can you prove to me that tree grew the same way that a tree grows in 2025?
Because there were still seasonal changes. Unless you don't think that there were seasons, then we can understand and reasonably infer that there would be seasonal changes.
Okay, but we established that before that first tree, there was no seasons, right?
No, we didn't establish that. There were no seasons like 4.5 billion years ago, likely because the Earth wasn't tilted on its axis yet. Okay, and that's speculation. Who knows if that's true?
It absolutely is.
It very well could be the case that there were seasons 4.5 billion years ago. I'm not
my point.
I'm not
it's
super
speculation.
To be clear, Johnny, I'm speculating. I'm not saying that the scientific consensus is speculating. I just don't know about what the consensus is on when the Earth's tilt started. I suspect that the idea is that the Earth's tilt started when Theia smashed into the proto-Earth and, tilted it. And that would have been about 50 million years after the Earth formed. But
I think science does a lot.
But yeah, so before trees existed, there would have still been seasons, right?
Okay, well, would you agree that there was a point in Earth's history where there was no seasons?
Not when there was life on Earth, no.
Okay, so before there was life on Earth, we don't know how things happened.
So I personally don't know. I could look it up for you right now, and I could go find the sources for the scientific consensus, and I could give you a more definitive answer. I just personally don't know. I haven't looked into when seasons started.
The gentleman I spoke with a few days ago, he was under the impression that the universe has always existed. Does that sound familiar?
Is that me?
No, it wasn't you.
Okay. Why are you bringing him up then?
I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm pretty agnostic about the age of the universe, whether it's always existed or whether it had a first moment. It seems kind of irrelevant. But look.
So you're agnostic about the universe's existence. However,
I'm agnostic about whether the universe began to exist. About whether the universe had a first moment or whether it's always existed. These are two separate questions. It's unrelated to whether the universe began to exist.
You can relate.
But Johnny, please don't pivot. I'm still baffled by the fact that you don't understand that so long as there are seasons, we can use tree ring data.
Why does that baffle you? I mean, you just admitted.
It's baffling because do you see that there's like a direct connection between the existence of seasons and the existence of tree rings?
Sure. In 2025, absolutely.
Do you think that that correlation just suddenly appeared out of nowhere?
I don't know how the Earth evolved. I wasn't there 160 million years ago.
Can you use your noodle and figure out that when things grow faster, they're going to grow differently than when things grow slower?
Hold on. Say that again.
Can we agree that when things grow faster, they grow differently than when things grow slower?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now, when there's water, trees can grow, right?
Not necessarily, but yeah, some trees. I mean, all life form need water.
All trees need water.
Right.
Generally, trees grow more. Do we agree that generally trees grow more when there's water than when there's not water?
I'm not scientifically privy to the trees that grow in deserts and dry climates, but I would. I mean, where I live, especially, we can see that when
on
it rains,
most of Earth, most trees grow more when it's wet than when it's dry.
Sure, absolutely.
So if there's seasonal variations between wet and dry, which is a thing that seasons do, presumably, as long as there's seasons and there's trees, there will be differences in growth behavior on a yearly basis.
From the observations that we've made since humanity has been observing these things, yes, I would agree that those observations can be made.
Do you think that those observations just fail to be reasonable?
No, I think
prior
they
to
are
humans
reasonable.
were observing this?
I think they are reasonable as for
Okay.
humanity. Yes.
So
right
it's,
now.
oh
in
wait,
the past,
so prior to
however many
humans
years.
observing this, do you think that it would be unjustified to say that this is the case, that trees still underwent these growth cycles?
My answer is I don't know because we have no evidence.
I'm asking, do you think it's reasonable to make this inference?
From a personal standpoint, it's probably reasonable. Yes.
Okay.
However, you and I do not know, nor will we ever know.
I don't know. When you say no, do you mean like with 100% certainty?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know anything with 100% certainty?
Yes, I have
Like what?
the things that, like, I know my backyard has grass in it.
Are you there right now?
I'm looking at it. Yes.
Okay, sure. Do you know that your backyard had grass yesterday
Yes.
with 100% certainty? How do you know?
Because I was there.
How do you know that you were there? How do you know it's not a fabricated memory?
Because I'm living in reality. I understand when I wake up in the
Well, it
morning.
could be a fabricated memory, right? What if when you woke up this morning, it was the first time you ever woke up, and all of the memories you have are fake?
Then that's a separate reality than what I have been raised in.
Okay, so you don't know with 100% certainty.
No, I
You're
do.
just very, very certain.
We're playing semantics here. I mean,
This isn't semantics. This is a very serious
who
issue
says
with the
that
view
you and I
that
are
you're
having a
holding.
conversation right now? I mean, do you think you and I are having a conversation right now?
I don't hold myself to
engaging
a 100% certainty, definition of knowledge. So I'm not I'm not on the
So the
hook
Earth
for.
could be 6,000 years old.
I'm not on the hook for defending against solipsism, like epistemological
so the Earth
solipsism.
could
You
be
are.
6,000 years old.
Please don't
what you're
pivot. Please
I'm
don't
not
pivot.
I'm proving
Look,
a point.
So do you agree that it could be the case that the memories that you have of yesterday were implanted this morning and they never actually happened?
I don't agree to that. No.
Okay, then how is that impossible?
How is what impossible?
How is it impossible that that couldn't be the case? Or sorry, how is it impossible that that could be the case?
I lived yesterday. I
So then you have
experienced.
memories of yesterday, right?
I have the reality, the lived experience of yesterday.
You have, and what are lived experiences aside from memories?
I woke up. I saw with my eyes the grass in my backyard.
And these are all these are all memories from yesterday?
Sure. I mean, if you don't call them memories,
And so,
I would
and
call
so
it
can
lived
memories be
experience.
false?
Yeah, I'm sure people's memories can be false. Absolutely.
Okay, so how do you know that yours aren't with 100% certainty?
Because I lived it. Because I understand what my reality is.
That's the thing in contention. You have memories of living it, but if those memories are false, then you didn't actually live it, right?
Okay, man, you got me. My whole life has just been a series of.
I don't look. You are
contested memories.
justified. You are justified in believing that all of your memories are at least reasonably accurate, right? You have great justification, but you don't have 100% certainty. This is why I don't think that we should rely on 100% certainty for anything. Because if you dig deep enough, you'll come to find that you're not certain about anything. You're just very, very confident in a lot of things.
You're making the claim that we can't be certain about anything as humans, right? Then how can you tell me the Earth isn't 6,000 years old? Which is what your prompt
Because I'm
says.
very, very confident that it's not.
Engage with you.
Yeah, because when I say the Earth isn't 6,000 years old, what that means is I have a high degree of confidence that Earth being 6,000 years old is false.
So we can agree that you'll change the prompt to, with a high degree of certainty, the Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
If people could read more, then yeah, I would, but I'm not going to. Because
so
people
you don't
can't
know.
read more.
The point of my argument is you don't know that
I
it's not
define knowledge not as 100% certainty. I'm a fallibilist about knowledge. I don't think that knowledge means 100% certainty. I think knowledge means a high degree of confidence.
Okay, well,
And there's other features too, but knowledge, I don't think knowledge has anything to do with 100% certainty.
Bad raps for this, but the view from a lot of Christians is that the scientific community is 100% certain on their claims, which what I would say, as somebody that has very minimal knowledge of science, is not.
Why would you believe the Christians who generally are science deniers about science?
Well, first off, to make that claim is insane to me. To say that Christians are generally
presumably,
climate or scientific deniers
you're right.
is a wild claim. That's not true at all.
No. So you're right. What I mean is the Christians who are making the claim that, science is 100% certain that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Those people are generally science deniers, because those are the people who are saying, yeah, but science is wrong. Science is 100% certain, but they can't be 100% certain about anything. Like, that's the group I'm talking about. You're right. I overgeneralized.
Well, I agree, and those people are misled.
That's what you're doing.
in their thinking. No, that's not what I'm doing at all. I'm open-minded. I'm as a Christian.
You're open-minded. Are you open-minded to evidence that showing that the Earth is older than 4.5 billion years old?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you looked into any of it? Because I can tell you about it.
Well, I've seen a little bit on the ice record or the Antarctic ice sheet and those things. But
Like
however,
ice cores? Yeah, sure.
yeah, ice cores. I've looked into a little bit of that. Obviously, you probably have far better knowledge on it than I do. However, my view from science is that I as a Christian, I have faith in my beliefs through Christianity, right? Whether it's from the Bible, huh?
You said your view on science, and then you pivoted to talking about your faith in Christianity.
Well, I'm explaining my argument. My view on science is that we don't know, right? You weren't there 6,000 years ago. I wasn't there 6,000 years ago. We don't know. When the Bible says the earth was created in 7 days, do you know what a day was to God? Do you know what
it uses the same word that is used to
our
refer
language,
to?
right? It uses
Well,
our
it
language.
uses the same word that is used to refer to like individual days, like of the week and stuff like that. So presumably, whoever was writing it was meaning it in the same way.
Right, and we can both agree that the Bible was written by human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was divinely influenced. You probably think it was just some made up stuff. That's where our difference is. However, it doesn't affect my thoughts on science, and it shouldn't affect your views on religion or your views on.
To be clear, your view on science is we can't believe anything because you weren't there.
No, I didn't say that.
So
my view on science is that the scientific community changes their beliefs over time. It's very evident. I mean,
okay. So what? So how does that lead you to the conclusion? How does that?
In 1901, when the Industrial Revolution was started,
Johnny, suppose that's true, that the scientific community changes its beliefs over time. How does that inform how you evaluate the claims of scientific consensus regarding the past?
Because I've seen that in the past they've gotten things wrong.
No, I'm asking. So, okay, suppose that's true. What does that mean about how you evaluate their claims? Do you say, oh, well, if they got things wrong in the past, therefore we can't trust them now? Or is it, they got things wrong in the past, but they were using less robust methods, and they're using more robust methods now, so we can trust them better?
And 1,000 years from now, there's going to be a lot more robust.
Can you answer my question, please?
I'm sorry, ask it again.
Yeah, so given the case, we're just granting this for the sake of argument, that science has gotten a lot of stuff wrong in the past, or that science has changed its views a lot in the past, how does that inform how you how seriously you take the claims of scientific consensus today?
Well, I try to do my own research, right? I try to.
That doesn't answer my question.
How does that? I mean, I don't know how else to answer it.
So let's say that you go to a scientific conference on, I don't know, geology, right? Some random science. And then you listen to all the talks, and then you come to the conclusion that all of these scientists together, like they all differ in their views slightly, because scientists are people, but like the general consensus is that XYZ rock formation in Utah formed 90,000 years ago.
Right.
That's you come to that conclusion that that's their views. Maybe you don't. Whether or not you believe it, that's a different question. But that's the consensus of the scientific community. How do you evaluate whether or not you should believe that consensus?
Well, there's really no metric that I have to determine that these scientists were correct in their assumptions.
However, no metric.
There's no metric. I can't
metric. It's impossible to tell. There's no tests that you can run. There's no data that you can analyze. There's no observations you can make to establish whether or not that's true.
No, because like you said, human beings.
What do you mean no? That's the whole scientific business.
The human beings are human beings, right? We make mistakes. We don't know. We don't know things. What if the next conference that I went to found that this rock formation in Utah was only 20,000 years old? Who do I believe?
You would believe the geologists. That's
Which
who you
geologists do I believe? Which geologists?
So in your hypothetical world, presumably you would believe the later ones.
Why?
Which because they would be informed on the earlier consensus, and they would be like, oh well, we can establish that earlier consensus was based off of this incorrect piece of data or whatever it is.
Okay.
So you generally want to lean towards the more recent consensus, because the more recent consensus is informed by the earlier consensus.
Okay, well, let's say the 20,000-year-old census is the newer consensus.
But look, the question is, why is it that you think that there's no way that we can know anything about the truth of these claims?
I didn't say there was no way. I said As
Are
from
you
what I
sure?
know,
Do you want to
yes.
replay the clip?
Well, okay. There's no way that we can for certain say we'll use
But
your
why do
prompt
we
as an
care about for certain? Why can't we just say we have a high degree of confidence that this is the
because
case?
as
That's how
a
we form
scientist,
beliefs.
you should understand that science is up for interpretation.
No,
And
it's
a
not.
thousand
You're
years
making that
from now,
mistake again.
in 1,000 years from now, maybe we'll see that the Earth was 6,001 years old. You don't know because you can't read the future. You can't read the past. You're a human being just like me. The difference we have here is I rely on my
So to be clear, you don't think that there's any way that we can actually, like today, there's no way that we can actually test whether or not a claim about the past is true.
I think we have certain methods that we can use to make certain assumptions about the past. Yes.
Sorry, those methods do what now?
Make assumptions.
So you don't think that there's any methods to test whether certain claims about the past are true?
I'm not. I would argue that there probably is. I don't know of any. I mean, I'm not a scientist. Like I said, I don't know that I can
So
point you.
do
in
you
the direction
think
of
that
something
the
that's gonna-
scientific method is useful?
in certain
Do you
instances,
think that it is helpful to come to true conclusions about the way the world is, the way the world will be, or the way the world was?
in certain things, yes, I think science is
Okay, so
absolutely beneficial.
when is it not applicable?
When we're making claims about the Earth's age, when we're making claims about a tree's age, when we're making claims about rock formations, when we're making claims about the atmosphere of the Earth, when we're making claims about
That was a big pivot.
It's not a pivot at all. You asked the question.
What do
I'm
you mean
giving
claims
you
about
multiple
the?
examples.
I mean, it just sounds like that you wanted to talk about climate change. But look, that's neither here nor there. So, what part of the scientific method works when we're talking about chemistry, and doesn't work when we're talking about tree rings?
What part about the scientific method? Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not real privy to
because
the scientific
you said
method
that
of
like,
chemistry.
oh, the scientific method works sometimes, but it doesn't work in these other cases. So I'm asking, what about the scientific method fails to work in these cases that you think it fails to work in, but it does work in all of the other cases?
When we have a observable an observable evolution of something in humanity, like let's take for instance the microwave or X-rays, right? Before X-rays, we didn't know that you could use X-rays to see through humans' bodies, but now we know, right? So that is scientific. Like, we can look to that and say, yes, this is a thing. Before this date, we didn't know that we could view humans' bodies internally, and after this date, we know that we can because we've learned about X-rays, right? You can't point me to any scientific research that's going to say that the Earth is not 6,000 years old.
Yes, I can.
You can't show me, you can't prove to me that the Earth isn't 6,000
Well,
years old.
maybe I can't prove it to you because I suspect any evidence I show you, you'll just reject. But absolutely, there's tons of evidence that would say that.
And I'm not arguing that the Earth is 6,000 years old. I think it's probably way older than that. However, you can't for certain.
You don't think the Earth is just 6,000 years old. You're just denying the science that says it isn't.
I'm denying the science that your prompt says Earth isn't 6,000 years old. You cannot prove to me that it's not. That's what I'm saying.
There's like tons of scientific evidence demonstrating
There's tons of scientific evidence
not.
in the year 600 BC that the Earth was flat.
So we're just doing science denial then. Like I'm offering to present you with evidence, and you're like, that evidence doesn't count because science was wrong in the past.
Yes. You can't for certain.
Okay, so to be clear, and this is just for the audience. I'm just rehashing it. So correct me if I'm improperly representing your view. To be clear, your view is science was wrong in the past, so we can't rely on scientific evidence today.
We can't rely on all scientific evidence today because it has been wrong in the past and it will be wrong in the future.
So we're doing that's just science denial, right?
Okay, you can call it what you want.
No, I mean like with that line of reasoning, you could just reject any scientific claim that was made.
Absolutely. And I think you should as a scientist.
That's science denial, right?
At your core, you should be able to deny
that is science denial, right?
Yes.
To be clear, being a scientist is about challenging beliefs. It's not about just denying stuff. No. Challenging
things if it's all true.
Challenging. You challenge hypotheses, right? Challenging is when you examine the data critically and you see.
Why do you need to do that?
Because that's how we improve.
That's how we understand.
Nobody's making the claim that it's all true. The reason why science works is because it roots out the things that are false and disproves them. That's
600
why
BC,
science works,
we'll
because
walk
people
the earth.
challenge these things all the time. And when they fail to challenge them, that just bolsters the credibility of the things that failed to challenge.
Okay, so your point in challenging things is what?
The point of challenging things is to root out the false things and to
Root out the false things.
and to repeatedly confirm or fail to root out the true things.
So would you agree that the scientific community is moving forward to cure cancer?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about
Okay, well, as a physicist,
medical
what is something
technology.
I don't know, string theory. I'm not real. You obviously know way more about this than I do, but I would assume that string theory isn't a known fact, right? Like, I guess, can you explain to me, one, what string theory really is? Two, from my little bit of understanding, it's kind of a middle road between Einstein's general relativity and Isaac Newton's gravitational stuff. I don't really know. However, I do know that as a theory, you're implying in the name that you're going to challenge it, right? Because we don't know.
So that's not what a theory is. So when scientists use the word theory, okay, and by the way, this is for everybody who's listening because this is going to blow a bunch of people's minds. So there's like the lay definition of theory that like your everyday person will use, and that's just like a guess, right? It's just like a thought that somebody has. It's just a guess. That's what theory means to the everyday person. When a science communicator, think like Neil deGrasse Tyson, think like Bill Nye the Science Guy. When a science communicator uses the word theory, what they mean is a model, like a scientific model, that has a whole bunch of evidence backing it up, right? It's like super confirmed. Like it's been experimentally verified time and time again that this is true. That's what a science communicator means. When a scientist, at least a physicist, I can't talk for chemists or biologists, I don't know what language they use, but at least for physicists and mathematicians, when this group uses the word theory, they literally just mean a mathematical model that purports to describe something. It hasn't necessarily been scientifically verified. So what you're seeing is a conflation of these terms. So string theory got its name because it was named by physicists to just represent, look, this is a mathematical model that like maybe it explains this thing. We don't know, but it's not like super ultra confirmed, verified or whatever. That's like a different notion of the word theory. But it's also not a guess.
Okay, so it's not ultra confirmed. Was your words, right?
Yeah. String theory is not a theory in that sense. No.
Okay, so can you point to me something that is ultra confirmed?
Versus quantum electrodynamics.
Which would be what?
It's the quantum theory that describes the behavior of electrons and their interactions with light.
Okay, so we, as a physicist, and I'm going to take your word for it, we say that quantum electric, is that what you call it? Quantum electric theory is more factual than string theory, right? Would you agree to that?
Sure.
Okay.
In simple language, sure.
I'm sure you could get into the deep dive on it, but however, my point is we've got two different theories that physicists are exploring, right? We've got one theory which the consensus says, we kind of think this is the way things work. Whereas with string theory, we've got a consensus that we don't really know how it works, right? Would you agree to that?
So they're kind of different things. They're different categories of thing, right? Like quantum electrodynamics is like well established. It's like kind of done in some sense. Like this is the story with regards to how electrons and light interact with each other. String theory is like a frontier idea that people think might like supersede quantum electrodynamics. Like it might might subsume it, but we don't know. Like we just don't know. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong.
We don't know. But these other theories we're certain about, right?
Quantum electrodynamics, yeah.
Don't you see a little bit of an issue with the scientific method there? Don't you see that it's a little
because
bit?
The whole thing about string theory is that it hasn't been tested with the scientific method.
So why do we call it string theory? Why don't we just?
Because look, it's called string theory because it's a mathematical model. Like I said, the word theory, as used by physicists and mathematicians, is a word that means a mathematical model that purports to explain something. It's not. This isn't something that has been like tested in the laboratory, right?
Okay, but you can test that the Earth was 6,000 years old in the laboratory.
Yeah, and you come up with no. You come up with the answer is no.
But can you point it to 4.9 or whatever it is billion years old in the laboratory?
Yeah, you can actually.
You can show me in a lab that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Yeah. You take a little crystal called a zircon. And then you take it to your laboratory and you do mass spectroscopy on it. Sorry, I can't talk.
Okay. So we've got it nailed. We've got it nailed down to the date, right?
No, didn't say that. Like
Why
with
not?
all like with all experimental sciences, and geochronology is one of them.
Right.
There are error bars, right? Those error bars tell you that your measuring equipment is only sensitive to this much, and so like you can't
margin of error.
Yeah, like on like a tape measure, right? If you're trying to measure something super precisely, you can never measure it more precisely than like the distance between two tick marks.
Same with weight, right? I can say that I'm 190 pounds, but I will never know if I'm exactly 190 pounds.
Yeah. You step on a scale, it says 190 pounds, but that could be 190.2 or it could be 189.9. That's what the error bars are. And the error bars on the age of the Earth are something like 1%, which is about 50 million years.
There's error, that we've already accounted for error in our scientific process, right? How can you say for certain that it's not 6,000 years old? Because we know we've got error.
The error bars are plus or minus 50 million years from 4.5 billion. 4.54 billion years old.
50 million
and those, because you can confirm using statistical methods the size of the error from taking multiple different samples, from taking multiple different measurements, multiple different measurement techniques. There are ways that you can measure error when doing a scientific measurement, right? For example, and this is just a perfect example. Suppose that you wanted to measure the growth rate of a plant, right? Like the growth rate of some bamboo. You take a species of that bamboo, you clone it. So you can clone plants by like chopping them up and then putting them in the ground separately. So you clone it so it's all identical bamboo, and you try to give them identical amounts of water, identical amounts of sun, because you want to measure how fast it's growing. But inevitably, they're not going to grow at exactly the same rate. So what you can do is you can do this with 100 different clones of the same bamboo plant. You can take the average of all of their different growth rates. You measure it over days or over weeks or whatever, and you'll get a spread. They won't all be exactly the same. You'll get a spread. And from that average and from that spread, you can figure out what the error is in your measurement. And you can also evaluate what the error is in your measurement by like looking at, how accurate is my tape measure when I'm measuring how quickly they grow? How accurate is my stopwatch when I figure out how long it's been? Okay. These are all ways that you can figure out how much error is in your measurement.
What if I said that I believe that the Earth is 4.9 billion years old, right? But my
error that's outside the error bars.
Okay, whatever it is, whatever you say.
4.54 or so.
4.54. Let's go with that. But let's say my error is 85%.
Then that's not a very good scientific assessment. I mean, it still could be true. It's just not very good.
Prove to me that your error margin is correct and mine is not.
Oh, you'd have to run the statistics on this. You can basically just collect a bunch of data. You'll get a normal distribution, and then you can measure the standard deviation. That's a measure of your error.
I don't understand how that's going to allow me to have. I mean, yeah, sure, we can use statistics.
So look, so a good example of this is if you are if you have less error, if you're a good shot, then like let's say with a bow and arrow or whatever, you will hit the bullseye and then a small little area around the bullseye. You'll never get it exact, or you'll never always get it exactly on, but you'll have only a little bit of error. So you'll have a very, very tight spread around the bullseye. But if you're not a good shot, then you'll have a wider spread. You have more error. And so you can look at the data that you have available and you can see how wide is the spread. And that will tell you about the error that you have.
And we apply that to the Earth's age.
Yep.
Which is wild to me. Why would we do that?
What do you mean why? Because we want to know how the world is. We want to know how old the world is. We want to know what the world is like. We want to know true things about the natural world.
We want to know true things about the natural world, so we're going to rely on a scientific method that already has built-in error margins.
Yes.
Okay. Or hear me out. We could let faith guide us, right?
You could do that, but that doesn't seem like a very effective way at figuring out what's true about the world around us.
And here's been my argument since I started, and I gotta head out here shortly. But the truth of the matter is, the truth of all of this, everything that we've discussed, you don't know how old the Earth is. I don't know how old the Earth is. Neither one of us knows. You rely on a scientific process that has been proven in the past to be incorrect. It's been proven in the past to have fallacies ingrained in the ideas. Those are proven things you and I can both agree to. We already have agreed to it. I rely on faith, right? I rely on something that's been taught for thousands of years. And I rely on, I'm under the impression that we are created. I'm under the impression that this Earth is too perfect for it to just happen by chance, right? That's kind of my way of thinking. And I almost, as a scientist.
So we're just like rehashing the same like science denial stuff that you were doing like 30 minutes ago?
I don't deny science at all. I mean,
that's exactly what you're doing in this screed right now.
I deny certain parts of science, just like I deny certain parts of the Bible. Like I said, I'm open-minded. I don't. In the Old Testament, it says that women, that show their ankles should be stoned to death. I deny that. Right. I also deny that there's some climate emergency right now.
So science denial. A good example of science denial is when you say, "Oh, science has been wrong in the past, so we shouldn't trust it now." That's like a great example of science denial.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I deny your claim.
Are you sure?
I deny your specific claim that the Earth is not 6,000 years old because you can't show me.
Well, I can. You just won't believe it.
You cannot show me that you know the age of the Earth. You've already established that you have a margin error in your thinking. You can't.
No, I can show you that it's not 6,000 years old, though. That's pretty easy.
Okay, sure. And we agree.
I can just show you like ice core samples that show 104,000 years of seasonal changes.
Okay, but you cannot show me that it's 4.65 billion years old.
That's not the claim. I mean, that is true, but that's not what you said. You're moving the goalposts now.
There's a margin of error.
Wait, why are you moving the goalposts now?
I'm not moving the goalposts. I'm stating.
The original claim that you made not 2 seconds ago was, you can't show me that the Earth is not 6,000 years old.
And you can't.
Yeah, I can. I can show you ice core samples that show 104,000 seasonal variations.
Do those ice core samples? So does that mean that prior to the year 6,000, that seasons were the exact same, 4 months per season?
That there were seasonal changes?
Yes.
Yeah, it does rely on there being seasons. Yeah.
It doesn't.
Do you think that there weren't seasons more than 6,000 years ago?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what.
Do you think that like seasons just all of a sudden started?
I don't know what catastrophic events happened that could have changed seasons. I don't know if the Earth's tilt on its axis was the same as it is now. There's a lot of variables you and I don't know. So you can't.
Fortunately, we can rely on a lot of different pieces of data that all agree.
And
we
in
don't have to rely on a single piece of data.
And 1,000 years from now, the data that you're referencing could be null and void. Correct?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
I guarantee you, if you were to go back 1,000 years and ask somebody on the Earth,
they weren't doing science 1,000 years ago.
Do you think we'll have? Do you think we'll have these things that we drive around on roads? I mean, they would have.
Why are we talking about engineering now?
No, we're talking about the fact that the way that you view science is flawed because you're not leaving.
No, I view science realistically.
You can't. If you think that 1,000 years from now, scientists are going to say this was the correct way we did things.
I think that there will be things. I think that there will be a lot of things that we got right 1,000 years from now.
What would lead you to believe that? You think we're better than the scientists 1,000 years ago?
Yes, because there weren't scientists 1,000 years ago.
Okay, 500 years ago, you think we're just that much better than those scientists?
You know the equals sign was invented 500 years ago, right?
Sure.
How were they doing? Like they weren't doing data analysis 500 years ago.
They definitely had mathematics more than 500 years ago.
They definitely were not doing data analysis 500 years ago.
I don't know.
Data analysis is like a thing started maybe 150 years ago.
What does data analysis have to do with mathematics?
You use mathematics to do it?
Okay,
That's how you do data analysis?
That doesn't mean they weren't doing mathematics.
I didn't say that they weren't doing mathematics. I said they weren't doing data analysis.
Data, which is a pivot of what I'm talking about.
Data analysis is important to the scientific method.
Sure.
Mathematics as a practice is like related to data analysis, but it's not related to the scientific method.
What if I told you I had a time machine, right? I could go in the future 1,000 years, and I go in the future 1,000 years, and we discovered that data analysis is the most bullshit concept we could have used in the year.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy, right?
That would be crazy. I actually wouldn't believe you.
Just like if you went back 1,000 years and told them we could fly in airplanes, right?
No, see, one would be crazy because.
So the people 1,000 years ago,
Johnny, one would be crazy because like it would be crazy to say that data analysis is flawed. Is like that. It's like the stupidest thing that we could possibly do because data analysis is just a rigorous way of taking our observations and converting them into conclusions. Now, the reason why it's not crazy, the reason why the person 1,000 years ago would be just like kind of incredulous for saying it's crazy that we have flying machines is just because they're basing their understanding of what it means to fly, what it means to be a person, and all of these things. Right? They're basing that on incorrect facts about the world.
They didn't understand Bernoulli's principle. They didn't understand the things that make airplanes fly, right? Just like we don't understand what's going to happen in 1,000 years from now. We don't know. It's pretty evident off of human history.
And therefore, we should just reject all the science. Got it.
I didn't say that. I've never said
That is the
saying that I'm
conclusion
some
of
kind
your
science
argument,
denier.
my guy.
You keep claiming that I'm a science denier, which is so far from the truth.
You're right. You're only a science denier with regards to the things that make your religion seem silly.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all.
Okay, give me another example.
Well, first off,
give me an example of a
years
scientific conclusion that you believe that contradicts Christianity.
A scientific belief that contradicts...
A scientific conclusion that contradicts Christianity that you believe.
I think that, well, the Bible doesn't speak much on science. So that's the issue that we have here. Like, you can't point me in the Bible.
That wasn't my question. I wasn't asking for a scientific claim that like contradicts another scientific claim in the Bible. I was asking for a scientific belief or a scientific conclusion that you believe is true that contradicts Christianity.
There's not one.
Okay, so sounds like the only science you believe is the science that doesn't contradict Christianity. It just sounds like that's confirmation bias and
tell me
science denial.
One scientific belief that contradicts the Bible.
Yeah, that there are ice core samples that are 104,000 years old.
Where in the Bible does it say that the Earth isn't 104,000 years old? Please show me.
I mean, there's a lineage in Luke, is it?
Okay.
That tells you how long it's been since between Adam and David, I want to say, or Adam and Jesus.
What's that got to do with ice core samples? 140,000 years ago.
Because from the...
You want to try Darwin's theory of evolution? You want to try that one? You want to try 80
Sorry, Luke, or not Luke, Johnny, I'm sorry, I wasn't done. From the lineages, well, the Adam was created when the earth, 5 days after the earth was created. And so...
How do you know it to God?
I'm just using what it says in the Bible, right? It says 5 days.
Uh-huh.
That's the word in the Bible. It uses the word day.
That's the word that humans
I mean, it uses the word
right?
yom, but that's the Hebrew word for day. So, yeah, sure. I mean, it does contradict what it says in the Bible, at least read literally. Now, you could read it figuratively, in which case you're just saying, well, the Bible, you shouldn't take it all serious. You shouldn't take it seriously the whole time, right? Like, you shouldn't take it literally. If that's your position, then great, but that's not your position.
Well, my position is you can absolutely cherry pick, as my view of...
I can give you another example.
Of my Christianity.
In Genesis 1, it says that plants were created on the third day. I might be getting the day wrong, but I think it's the third day. And the sun was created on the fourth day, which means in Genesis 1, in the Bible, it says that plants existed before the sun did.
Were you there?
Were we doing the science denial again?
I'm just asking if you were there. That's all I asked.
Were you there?
Scientists there?
Were you there?
No,
this is not how we establish what is the claims made by the scientific method. You don't have to have been there. It's not required.
Well, I've explained to you that the things that we weren't there for, that we don't have human interaction with, I have a hard time believing those things.
So you have so to be clear, were you there? So do you have a hard time believing that the earth was created that the sun was created on the fourth day and plants were created on the third day? Do you have a hard time believing that?
No, I don't, because I don't know what a
no humans were there.
I don't know but I have religious faith, or I have
so I thought you said that you have a hard time believing things that we don't have human interaction confirming.
When it comes to my faith, I wholeheartedly believe in my faith.
So you only have a hard time believing scientific claims.
That's what I put my trust in. That's what I put my trust in. You only have a hard time believing
scientific claims that contradict your worldview.
Well, you haven't mentioned one that contradicts the Bible.
I just did. I mean, the sun existed before plants did. That's a scientific claim that you reject.
You don't know the process that was involved in those 7 days.
You could say you don't know. I don't care. The point is that the scientific claim, the consensus amongst the scientific community is that the sun existed before plants did, and you reject that, right?
Yes, I reject that. Yes.
So that's an example of you rejecting a scientific claim that contradicts the Bible.
It doesn't contradict the Bible, because the Bible doesn't say.
The Bible says that
the Bible doesn't attempt to make an explanation of how it happened.
It doesn't. It's not that there's an explanation required. The Bible does say that plants pre-existed the sun, predated the sun.
Okay, sure. And how do you know that they didn't?
That's not the point of this line of inquiry. The point of this line of inquiry is that the scientific consensus is that they didn't, and you reject it in favor of believing what the Bible says.
Yes, I reject the claim.
You asked for an example. You asked for an example of a scientific claim that contradicts the Bible that you reject, and I gave you one.
I mean, if you want to use that as your scientific claim, I would argue that that's
is a scientific claim. Yeah, that is a claim that is founded via
I would
scientific
argue
consensus.
Okay, sure. Then that's one example.
Yeah. There you
Fantastic. However, that doesn't mean that I'm a science denier.
go. It does.
Doesn't mean
It does, though.
No,
And I
it
know
doesn't.
that makes you uncomfortable because I'm sure that you see yourself as a man of science. I'm sure that this is like something that you think is
I see
valuable.
myself as a man of God and as a person that has
So then why
religious
does it
faith.
make you uncomfortable to be told that you're doing science denial? You're not a man of science. Why does it
Well,
matter?
because I don't deny science. I think X-rays
just
are a
did.
very real thing. I think
You
the
just
cell
did.
phone that I'm holding in my hand is a very real thing.
So
I think
you
the
don't
microwave that I
deny
heat my food
engineering.
with is a very
You're
real thing.
confusing engineering and science, it seems like.
Not at all. There was science involved in creating cell phones. there was science
Creating
involved
cell phones.
in
Do you think that there were any scientists on the team that created the first cell phone, that created your iPhone or whatever? Or do you think it was engineers?
Well, engineers probably created the product. However, they couldn't have done it without science. Some sort of scientist somewhere creating or explaining how electrons flow through the phone and explaining how things can.
Right. It's the scientists who created quantum mechanics. Yeah, I agree. The scientists who created quantum mechanics. So you say that you would say that you think that quantum mechanics is like a real, like you trust that quantum mechanics is true?
In this sense,
in this sense, in which sense?
In the sense that it was involved in the creation of this cell phone.
Okay,
yes.
so you just trust in the engineering then. This is not about the science. It's not about the actual science. It's just like, in the sense that it was applied in a phone, that's what you think works.
Yes, science that I can see.
That's
my
engineering.
Own eyes.
That's engineering.
Science that I can see with my own eyes.
Can you see the electrons with your own eyes?
In my reality, I believe in that science. However, I don't believe that.
And you
like
deny
I said
any other, so like you believe in the science of like 400 years ago is what you're telling me.
Some of it, yeah.
And like you reject basically everything post 1760s, maybe.
I reject things that we can't experience as humans.
Okay, so like you reject all of quantum mechanics because
That's not what I said.
Well, you can't experience quantum mechanics as a human.
Okay, well, I don't even know what quantum mechanics is. Enlighten me, please.
It's the physics of like electrons and atoms, those kinds of things.
Okay, and those things have been tested and true. When I plug my phone,
but you can't experience them, right?
I can absolutely experience it when I plug my phone into the wall.
No, you're not experiencing them.
I understand that electrons are running through the ground to my house.
How do you even know electrons are real?
Well, that's an interesting question because, I think science proves that they're real.
Oh, how? You can't experience them.
Well, I think they can experience them.
How do you experience an electron?
Well, I think if you look at the particle accelerators and things like that,
you're just getting data traces on a computer. You're not experiencing an electron.
Huh? I mean, how it's okay. So all of the science that they're doing at the particle accelerators,
it's all data. It's filtered through data.
It's just numbers, right?
It's just numbers. Yeah, it's just numbers.
So there's no way that they know that there's electrons running through the accelerator.
Well, no. The thing is if you weren't a science denier, then you would be like, oh, that's evidence, and therefore I have good reason to justify the belief that electrons are real.
I'm proving that I'm not a science denier. I know you want to label me as one, but that's just not the case. I totally believe in.
But the standard that you are making, the standard that you're enforcing, that you have to have human experience, that standard isn't met for electrons.
It is 100% met for electrons.
What human experience is involved in in detecting electrons?
When I plug in a lamp at my house.
That has nothing to do with electrons.
I understand that when I plug something in my house, there's power involved, right? What's in power?
Who knows? It could be fluffy unicorns for all you know. You can't experience it.
So you're a science denier then. Why are you denying science as a physicist?
I'm satirizing you.
That's insane. I don't understand how you could be a physicist with a PhD.
I was satirizing you.
And deny science like that.
I was satirizing you.
This idea, this view, this worldview that science is fact, we never deviate from science, is insane to me. I, as a Christian, can deviate from some things, right? I might not be a good Christian to a lot of people, but I think a lot of the things that were written down in the Bible by human beings aren't necessarily the way we should do things in 2025.
That's great. I just think that we should rely on evidence to form our beliefs.
You can't, but you won't concede that anything other than your scientific evidence is fact, right?
No, I just think that we should form our beliefs using evidence, right? Like you can use non-scientific evidence, that's fine. I just think that you should use evidence to form your beliefs. And we have lots of evidence that the Earth is older than 6,000 years old.
What is something that science doesn't prove? Can you tell me
science doesn't prove things like, I don't know, that there are some infinities larger than other infinities, for example. That's a mathematical claim. It's not a scientific one.
So there's no evidence for that, right? There's no evidence.
It's not even, it's a category error to ask for evidence. Well, to ask for empirical evidence. This isn't an empirical question, right?
Okay, so your view is that maybe there isn't a infinity that's greater than a separate.
No. There's just a different kind of evidence. It's not empirical. It's not scientific.
It's empirical. It's not scientific.
No, it's not empirical. Right?
You think faith-based assertions are empirical?
What?
I mean, do you think? Have you seen? There's a guy in, I believe it's Kentucky. He's got the Noah's Ark Museum, and he's.
Oh yeah, I know that guy. I'm familiar with him.
So you and I would probably agree this guy shouldn't be doing that, right?
Yeah.
I can concede that is an example of religion that's taken it a little too far. Okay, as a Christian, I can do that. What can you do as a scientist to concede that maybe science isn't correct? Is there any example?
I don't think that it, like, science is a method, right? And I think that the method is very, very effective.
Well, you can't do it. You're so entwined with your scientific beliefs.
Why would I? I don't think it's true.
Why don't you come out like?
I don't think it's true. I don't think the scientific method is like fatally flawed in this one particular way. Like, I just don't think it's true. I think that the scientific method is really effective.
So in every instance that the scientific method has ever been applied, it's always correct.
No. The scientific method isn't correct or incorrect. The scientific method is a method. The conclusions that you come to can either be verified and backed up by evidence or not. Now, people can, misuse the scientific method or apply the scientific method incorrectly and come to wrong conclusions, and that happens all the time. And people can also use the scientific method correctly and get statistical flukes. Those also happen occasionally, and that might lead you to the wrong conclusion, even if you use the scientific method correctly. That happens. That happens occasionally, and so that's why repetition is important, because it can statistically rule out flukes.
Okay, you've mentioned flukes, and you agree that the scientific method doesn't always produce correct results, right?
Sure.
You agree to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We both agree to that. My argument is that those beliefs that science, the flukes that you called them in the scientific process, my belief is that maybe a creator can explain those things. Maybe.
Those flukes are you're misunderstanding. Those flukes are statistical anomalies, and then you run the test again, and you can show that those were statistical anomalies, right? Imagine that you were rolling dice. Or imagine that you wanted to figure out whether or not a six-sided die was fair, right? Like maybe it's rigged or something like that. If you roll the dice 3 times and you get a 6 all 3 times, that would, if you just took that at face value, you'd be like, oh, this die isn't fair. But if you kept rolling it and you got a 4 and then a 3 and then a 1 and then a 5 and then maybe another 6, and then you rolled it 100 times, those 3 6s in a row, if they wash out, you would then be reasonable to conclude, oh, those first 3 6s, it was a statistical fluke. It happens sometimes. That's why we test over and over again. These are not like things like, oh, we can't explain this random statistical anomaly. Like, statistical flukes happen.
Flukes happen in your process.
Yes. That's the whole business of statistics.
Flukes happen.
Yes. It's like when you roll 3 6s in a row. That happens sometimes, even if the die isn't loaded.
So as you understand in the scientific process, flukes happen. Why do you put so much faith in science? If you know that flukes happen, why do you put so much faith in science?
When flukes happen, that's a signal to run more tests. And then you either confirm that there's something that we didn't understand happening, and that fluke actually amplifies and becomes a true signal, or you confirm that fluke was genuinely just statistical noise, in which case you conclude that, oh, well, that fluke was meaningless. It didn't actually
So there's a flaw in your process.
Something new.
There's a flaw in your process, but you can't point to a flaw in my faith.
Wait, where's the flaw in the process?
You just admitted there was flukes.
Flukes aren't flaws. That's statistically expected.
So it's expected to get things wrong in science.
It's expected to see statistical flukes statistically frequently.
So it's expected to get the incorrect answer from what you're looking for.
In the same way that it's expected to get 3 6s in a row if you roll enough times, yeah.
Right. You expect that there's going to be some error, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so
of
how
course.
can you place
Error bars and statistical anomalies happen. That's
how
the
can
thing.
you place your beliefs in something that you know is going to produce fallacies? How can you produce?
They're not fallacies.
well, flukes, as you called them. How can you place
statistical
your beliefs,
flukes.
How can you place your beliefs in science when you know, as a scientist, that you will come across anomalies or flukes or whatever?
Because
How
the
can
whole
you-
enterprise of the scientific process is taking those flukes. And by the way, often discoveries come from you have some way that you think the world works, and then you run a new test, and you come across something that you think is a fluke. So then you run more tests to establish that it is, to show that it's statistical noise, and then you find out that that's actually a signal. And so that's the whole scientific process. When you detect one of these anomalies, one of these flukes, you run more tests to figure out what's actually going on. That's the whole business. The trouble with faith is that faith doesn't do this. It doesn't self-correct. If it gets something wrong, it will be wrong about it forever.
Sure. Yeah. But I agree. Yeah. If faith was wrong, it's wrong forever. However,
Yeah, and it is wrong about a lot of things. At least, if a literal interpretation of Genesis is, for example.
yeah, if you take a literal interpretation of the Bible, you're gonna
You'll get a lot of things wrong forever. It has
like
no way of
science.
correcting itself.
Just like science has gotten a lot of things wrong in the past.
No, but the thing is it's not just like science, because the Bible, as written, will be wrong about those things forever. There will never be a Bible 2.0 that says, we got the stuff wrong in the past. Here's the right stuff. It will never do that. The whole enterprise of the scientific process is that it is self-correcting.
But
So
there is a process.
you can trust the stuff now more than you could trust the old stuff.
But there is
The
a
fact
process
that
in
the
science
fact
that
that
will
the
say
religious
1,000 years from now we got it wrong, right?
One more time.
There is a process. Science will allow for new discoveries to come about and things to happen in future times that we didn't understand right now. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. There
Okay.
will be things that we don't understand now that we will understand better in the future.
Absolutely. We both
Those
agree.
things, by the way, those things will be the statistical flukes that we can't that their signals get bigger and bigger, and we don't have an explanation for why they're doing that.
Right,
It's not that the old theories are wrong. It's that the new theories will be able to explain what we currently observe and more.
Okay, great. And my process as a Christian is to think that my faith will guide me through those flukes that you experience.
But
your
it never
science
has.
is
It's never. Your faith can't update, right?
Exactly. That's the
It
whole
cannot.
point.
It can't. The whole
That's
point
why-
is to
that's why
be
that's
wrong
why I have
forever.
it.
Okay, that's a weird.
That's why
a
why
weird
I
desire.
have faith, because I understand that it doesn't change, because it's not up for
Because
debate.
you want it to be wrong forever. That's weird.
That's not what I said at all. I don't have.
Well, if it can't change and it's wrong about even one thing, then it's wrong forever.
The way that my faith has changed is humans have changed it.
Oh,
Right?
so like you recognize that that the Bible has issues, and so humans have creatively interpreted the Bible so that it doesn't seem like it has issues anymore.
No, I didn't say that. I said that humans have gotten the Bible wrong in the past.
Oh, so it's the Bible that was right. It was just the humans that were reading it that were wrong.
The human interpretation of the Bible has
Got
been
it.
wrong in the past.
Got it.
However, there's no deviation like you see in science. There's no insane claim that has
Yeah,
been
and
made.
that's nutso. It's nutso that you can't change your views. That like the Bible is like the final story and that's
we
it.
just established that we can change our views.
The Bible
when the
can't
Salem witch
change.
trials were going on, we were we were executing people that we.
So what
felt
changed there?
were witches.
Did the Bible change?
No, humans changed.
So wait a minute. So then you're telling me that the Christians in the past were wrong
About certain things,
about
absolutely.
about the witch trials, like about slavery, about stoning
Yes,
people to death.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
so in 1,000 years,
Human
couldn't the
beings have gotten it
Christian?
wrong.
But in 1,000 years, couldn't the Christians be wrong about Jesus? Couldn't the Christians today be wrong about Jesus rising from the dead?
I think if you look at the history of Christianity versus the history of science, Christianity has proven to stay along the course, to follow its path, compared to science that has changed
Oh
dramatically.
no, it hasn't.
To where we used to think the Earth was flat, but now we
Wait
say
a
it's
minute.
round.
So to be clear, is it a good thing when it can change, or is it a bad thing when it can change? Because it seems like you're trying to defend both views.
No, are you referencing science or are you referencing the Bible?
I'm saying if you have a method of forming beliefs, is it a good thing if that method can change, or a bad thing if that method can change?
It's a good thing.
Okay, so it's a good thing then that Christianity can change, and it's a good thing that science can change.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
absolutely.
so you're telling me that. Hold on. I gotta channel my inner Johnny. So isn't it possible that 1,000 years from now, the Christians will be like, those Christians from 1,000 years ago were so wrong about thinking Jesus rose from the dead?
No, because that's the one thing that has remained the same. That's the one thing that's remained the same. That's one of the few things that has
you're right.
remained the same.
But it could be, oh, those Christians were so wrong about Jesus actually being God and being part of a Trinity.
If you think like that, then you're no longer a Christian.
Oh, but I thought you said Christianity could change.
It can, and
okay,
it will.
So that would be an example of Christianity changing. So could you be wrong about Jesus being part of a Trinity?
No, because in my faith and my belief, that's what.
Oh, but I thought that I could believe. What if tomorrow you wake up and you realize that Jesus isn't part of the Trinity?
That wouldn't make. I mean, then that's not Christianity. That's not how the belief.
No. But what if Christianity changed? Right?
It's not going. If it changes outside of the parameters of Christianity, it's no longer Christianity.
That wasn't the original parameter of Christianity. The Trinity is like 300 years younger than Christianity is.
Okay, well, part of the beliefs as a Christian is in the Trinity and in Jesus' resurrection.
It wasn't always that way.
I'm pretty sure we've always believed that Jesus was resurrected. I think that
doesn't have anything to do with the Trinity.
Well, I'm not pivoting to the Trinity. I'm talking about.
I was talking about the Trinity because you're right. You're right. The core tenet of Christianity is that Jesus is resurrected. That's true.
And it hasn't changed in thousands of years.
So that's why I changed. That's why I brought up another example of something that has changed. So originally there was no Trinity. The Trinity is something that is a few hundred years younger than Christianity.
Sure.
And so you agree that tomorrow Christianity could just change and it could be like they were all wrong about the Trinity. The Trinity is not real.
I'm sure certain theologians could come to that conclusion. Sure.
You could come to you could recognize that you were wrong about the Trinity.
I won't though. I won't because I have faith.
But I thought it was good when things can change.
It is. It's absolutely.
Okay. So it would be good. It'd be good if your views about the Trinity could change.
My views on Christianity will not change because I have faith. And however, your views in science change all the time.
Or is that bad? So look, it sounds so if it was good that things can change with new information, then it seems like it's bad if your views about Christianity can't change with new information.
That we already established that's not what's happened. We looked at. I mean, we can.
No. But so then new information could come up that could change your views about the Trinity.
Like, I mean, your example is not a very good example. I don't understand.
Is it possible that new information could come up that changes your views about the Trinity?
No, because the Trinity is part of my religion.
But so premise one, it is good. Or premise one, when views can change about the when views can change given new information, it is good. Premise two, your views cannot change your views about Christianity cannot change when given new information. Premise
no.
Actually that was actually not a valid syllogism. I can construct a valid syllogism if you want.
Let's try something else.
But so roughly we want something like it is when a thing cannot change its position given new information, that is bad. Do you hold to that or no?
When a thing cannot change based off of new information, it is bad.
Right. Do you agree with that?
No, I would not agree to that.
Okay, so you think it's possible for a position to be good without changing its views in light of new information?
Yes.
Okay. Now you also think that a position is good if it can change its positions in light of new information?
Absolutely.
Okay, so are any methodologies bad?
Yes.
Which ones?
Well, in regards to my religion, I'm not going to...
Talk about methodologies here.
Okay, well, in regards to religion versus science, as a as a Christian, I'm not going to accept things that make me no longer a Christian because I have faith in those
even in light of new information.
Thousands of years. I mean, what new information could we discover that is going to shake my faith in Christianity?
Yeah, how about a newly discovered gospel written by, let's say Jesus wrote something in the last year of his ministry, and he explicitly wrote, and we confirmed that this was his handwriting. He signed it. We figured out that it was written during his lifetime. He says, I am not one. I am not God. I am merely God's representative on earth. He and I are not one. There is merely the Holy Spirit and the Father, and I am just a representative on earth. I am not God. That could change your views on the Trinity, right?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I thought you said that new information couldn't change your views on the Trinity.
It depends on where the information is coming from. If it's coming from
Okay, so you're
Jesus
just
himself,
contradicting yourself now.
no, you're not listening. If the information, like you said, comes from Jesus himself, then I would be inclined to believe what he says. However, I don't believe what Dr. Blitz says on TikTok, and it's not going to change my view structure on science and religion. It's just
well, it should. What if Jesus? What if a manuscript was found in Jesus's hand? What if a manuscript was found written by Jesus that said, "I am not the Messiah"?
Then maybe that's I don't know.
Would you stop being a Christian?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. All right, Johnny. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.